Disney's Destination D23 event is the biggest Disney fan event in the world, and this year is going to be unlike any other. Hello everybody, welcome. Disney has some big problems that they are going to have to address during this year's event. And after all the announcements Disney made in last year's event, how much gas do they really have left in the tank for this year? Disney's Destination D23 2025 is sure to be one for the books, and will likely be talked about for years to come. This year's event is on August 29th through the 31st, 2025 at Disney's Coronado Springs Resort in Walt Disney World, and this timing of this event is just absolutely insane to me. This is literally opening weekend for Halloween Horror Nights 34 at Universal Studios in Orlando. In the same location, they are having two massive events that people are gonna want to attend and go to the same exact weekend. Opening day, Halloween Horror Nights, August 29th, is the same as the first day of the D23 Expo this year. I am floored by the timing of this. This means that people, fans, influencers, media, whoever, they're gonna have to make a choice on whether they're going to cover Halloween Horror Nights opening weekend or if they are going to cover Disney's Destination D23. This is just crazy town to me. I can't believe that they chose those dates in that same location in Orlando, literally just miles apart from each other. Could be a big coincidence, but I think that is very strategic on Disney's part. I think they made a choice on purpose. Halloween Horror Nights is one of the most popular events in the country, as is Destination D23. Now, the only saving grace here is that in order to attend Destination D23, you must be a gold member. This is part of their fan club in order to even purchase tickets. So the people attending this event are going to be the super fans of Disney and are more likely going to be going to the Destination D23 event, not Halloween Horror Nights over at Universal anyway. But I will say there are a lot of people that are fans of both. So I think it's going to be really challenging. I think people are probably a little bit upset about this timing. So with that, let's jump into what we know. Let's talk about all the things that we expect to see and hear at Destination D23 this year. I want to start out with Magic Kingdom. This is probably the big elephant in the room. This is all about Villains Land and the Cars area, Piston Peak. I believe it's going to be Villains Land all day long. Villains, villain. You're going to hear that. That is going to be, I think, the marquee marquee land, the marquee sort of focal point for D23 this year. I think it's got to be Villains Land for Magic Kingdom. Disney has painted themselves in a corner this year. They have a big problem that they're going to have to address based on what they did last year. This year, Josh D'Amaro is most likely the most afraid he's going to get booed on the stage that he's ever been. I think this is going to be a really tough year for Josh. People have been booed before on those stages. This will not be the first time. I do think there's going to be a lot of fear around that. So many things that they announced last year that they sort of hid behind under the covers and then later sort of announced the things that were going to be unpopular. There's a lot of things that came out that people have just really been upset about. You've got the Rivers of America destruction there in Tom Sawyer Island for the Piston Peak. And then, of course, you've got the Muppets being removed for the Monsters, Inc. area, Monstropolis. So there's a lot of things that they're going to have to tread lightly on this year in order to, I think, not get booed. So again, I think they're going to over-index on Villains Land. I think that's what people are really excited about, not so much the Cars area. They're going to be really pumped and want to know more about what's happening with Villains. Where's it going? What's going to be in it? I think we're going to get definitely some new concept art, some updated concept art that really shows more of the layout of the land, what could potentially be in there. Attraction information, hopefully at least one announcement on one of the attractions of what's coming in that space. Restaurant information, what types of food, is there going to be theming, what particular theme will be around at least one restaurant that's going to be there. And potentially even what are the key villains going to be in this land? Like, who are they going to be? We know that they're doing sort of the villains show over there in Hollywood Studios next to the Muppets and Tower of Terror there. That is a temporary show in the old Lightning McQueen building that I believe they are using to sort of vet out different villains and see like who is resonating. So I want to know what they're learning and what they're thinking about the villains that are going to be sort of the marquee primary villains in this Villains Land. So those are the big things that I'm expecting out of that. Hopefully we also get some more artwork that's going to show how Villains Land connects into the park. Is it going to be right there by Haunted Mansion specifically? Is that going to be the only entrance? Or is it going to connect over there around to Fantasyland, which I've been predicting it does connect in some way to Fantasyland. Not sure how, maybe some sort of bridge, some sort of themed bridge that happens that goes over that road there, the Utilidors access, a lot of stuff they got to mess with. I've also been speculating there's going to be a new hotel back there at some point. I don't think that we will hear anything about a hotel at D23. I think that is a multi-year out addition that they could plan for that space. I'm expecting a lot in Villains. The next big one is obviously an update on Cars, the Piston Peak. Again, I think Josh is they're gonna have to be really careful about what they do here. I think there's a high likelihood of people booing at this point. I think what they're gonna have to do is they're gonna have to focus on the water, all the natural elements that they're bringing to Piston Peak and how it's really going to fit in with the existing Frontierland and the Liberty Square there, how all of that is going to fit in and what the sight lines are going to be and what the sound lines are going to be. Again, I've coined this. If I start hearing people talk about sound lines, I know they watch my videos and I'll be flattered, because sound lines, I think I invented that word. Essentially, when I can hear things when I shouldn't be hearing them and it ruins the ambiance. And so I think they're going to have to address that. I don't think they're going to talk too much about the rally sort of race cars attraction. They'll show it, they'll talk about it a little bit more, but I don't know that people are like super amped and jazzed about that attraction. It really is just a retheme of Radiator Springs attraction there in DCA. It's just a retheme of that. It's a different ride vehicle that's going to be, bumpy and have shocks and struts, and it's going to be more like a Jeep of some kind versus a race car. But it is still pretty much the same attraction on a track as Test Track. It's the same technology for the most part, other than the vehicle itself being different. I just don't know that it's going to be like the big thing that people were amped about. We could possibly get information on whatever the second attraction is going to be going into that space. We haven't heard anything about it. And so hopefully we learn a little bit more about the second attraction. Maybe they over-index on that second attraction, especially if it's a cool attraction. It could maybe take some of the pressure off, but we'll have to wait and find out. Now let's move over to Animal Kingdom. We're definitely going to get an update on the Tropical Americas and what's going on in there. Obviously an update on the Encanto ride, hopefully more details around the Encanto ride and what it's going to be like and what are some of the scenes that we can see other than the concept art that we've already gotten. But I think the big one is going to be Indiana Jones. I think they're going to have to give more information and an update on the Indiana Jones. That is the Encanto ride, I think that's a new thing. That's an ad, even though it technically is replacing the old Triceratops thing over there or whatever. But the Primeval Whirl or whatever it was called, they replaced that, yes, technically, but no one cared about that ride. And it's been gone for a long time. So it almost feels like this Encanto attraction is additive. So people aren't really upset about that. The Indiana Jones attraction, however, is replacing Dinosaur, which is a very loved attraction. And so I think they're going to have to really talk about how this Indiana Jones attraction is going to be phenomenal, what they're going to do with that space. Hopefully it's not just adding Indiana Jones as an attraction, but they actually theme out the area around it, which leads me to the Restaurantosaurus restaurant in that space. I think we're going to need to get an update on what that restaurant is going to be, what types of food. What I'm really hoping for is an Indiana Jones retheme of that restaurant versus just, I don't know, Tropical Americas or Encanto or anything like that. Hopefully it ends up being more themed. It is much closer to the Indiana Jones attraction than the Encanto experience. So I'm thinking maybe something like the Hangar Bar over at Disney Springs. If you've never been there, it is very Indiana Jones-like, obviously. Jock Lindsay, the Hangar Bar, that was basically Indiana Jones like co-pilot, and so it is already people don't realize it's an Indiana Jones themed restaurant and bar, and it's actually really cool if you've never been into it. It's a phenomenal feel. The food is really good there. They've got this pretzel there that's unbelievable. It's basically like a charcuterie board, but it's a pretzel. It's crazy. So I'm hoping that something like that potentially, but either way, we need to get an update on that restaurant. So I'm expecting to get something there. And then I think we also might get an update on this splash sort of pad, this kids area with the water that has been part of the concept art and what's coming to the tropical Americas. So some sort of update on that splash pad and what it's going to be like. Now let's move over to Hollywood Studios. I think the big one there is going to be around the Mandalorian. Obviously, we know we're getting a Mandalorian sort of new show, retheme, overlay, whatever you want to call it, new version of Smuggler's Run. And from what we understand, this overlay for Smuggler's Run is going to allegedly improve the other positions in the Millennium Falcon. So if you're not the pilot or the co-pilot, the other seats like the gunner and the mechanic, they basically they're not super fun. You can't really do a whole lot with them. Even though the gunner, you can actually do more than most people realize because there's like an advanced mode to it. But for the most part, like it's just like pushing a button once in a while. And it's not super like engaging. You don't really feel like you're doing a whole lot. But allegedly, they're going to be amping up what those other positions do and trying to highlight them more and bringing Grogu into the picture. So Grogu will have something to do with those other positions. Baby Yoda, if you're like, who's Grogu? Baby Yoda. So that will be interesting to see what they do there. I don't know. I'm looking forward to finding out. There's also rumor about them bringing more familiar locations and places from the original films into this attraction and even into Galaxy's Edge, which I think is really interesting because that's been like one of the biggest complaints about Galaxy's Edge is it doesn't really tie into any of the movies, really. It is almost like this like adjacent Star Wars universe. Like it's Star Wars, but it's like adjacent because like most of the characters pretty much don't exist. You do have Rey and Chewbacca that show up once in a while, but they are all about this continuity of like we can't put like Luke Skywalker or Princess Leia or, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi. We can't put them into this Star Wars Galaxy's Edge because it ruins the continuity of the time period of where Galaxy's Edge is supposed to be this hustling, bustling center of activity. And so they've been all hung up on the continuity and making sure that it stays true to its vision, which I can totally respect. I think it was the wrong choice for them to pick that time period. I would have picked something where it was much more iconic characters that everybody loves, but I can respect the continuity thing. And what's interesting is Mandalorian being brought into the park, which they did, totally just throws that out the window. They're like, after, you know, we've been standing on this continuity thing for years now, you know what? It's not really working that well. Let's just throw it out the window. So they literally just got right off their soapbox and said, see you later. We're going to throw Mandalorian in there. So now it looks like the gloves are off. Like all bets are off. The guardrails are down. They're like, screw it. Let's just add a bunch of stuff that's Star Wars related, no matter what, you know, generation of Star Wars it was. So it throws the continuity off, which I'm like, okay, whatever, continuity be darned, but I'm kind of here for it too, because it needs something. Galaxy's Edge is kind of disappointing, to be honest. The next thing, obviously, is Monstropolis, Monsters, Inc. Land. Again, I think it's possible we get some booze during this part. I think the roller coaster there, people are 100% excited for, super jazzed for the door roller coaster that's going to go up and it just fly you through the door factory or whatever, the door holding warehouse. I think people are like super pumped about it. I'm pumped about it. I think it's going to be awesome. Disney's first hanging coaster ever. And it's really cool. And it is additive. They're not replacing anything. They're basically building out in that parking lot there. It's already being walled off. And that I'm excited for. I don't think people are super excited for the rest of the land. I think it's more like they're interested in the attraction. The rest of the land, they could kind of be like, whatever. But the fact that so many people are just all in for Muppets and they had to replace that, this is going to be a tough one for him to navigate, I think. I think getting around what's coming for Monsters without getting booed a bit is going to be tough. Hopefully we get more information on the door coaster, a little bit more details. We haven't seen a lot. We've seen a couple of concept art pieces. We had like one little like mechanical demo, three-dimensional like 3D CGI demo or whatever of like how the vehicles would be loading. There was no theming in that video. So hopefully we get a little bit more around that. Maybe also like an animatronic, like an example of an animatronic, or maybe some artwork around an animatronic that might be coming for this attraction. That would be cool, or even maybe in the queue. And I also think we might get an update on what this new Monsters, Inc. show is going to be in that Muppet Vision 3D replacement show building. I think obviously that is the touchiest subject for people, so they are going to have to bring their A game when they announce what this show is. It's got to be something really impressive and cool. So I'm going to say this. If we don't get the show announced, it is because they had planned something, and then after all the backlash of Muppets, they realized that what they had planned was not going to be impressive enough, and they've kind of gone back to the drawing board. If they do announce it, we'll see what happens. We'll see if it is good enough, if it's going to get people excited, or if it's going to be a, really? That's what you're replacing Muppet Vision 3D with? That? So we'll see what ends up happening. Now, obviously, because of the Muppets backlash, we are 100% they're gonna lean really heavily, I think, into the Rock and Roller Coaster replacement Muppets with the Electric Mayhem. I think they're gonna talk a lot about that. We're gonna get some updates on that. I'll just call it a retheme overlay, if you will, to try to get people excited about the fact that they're bringing Muppets back in. Yes, they took it out, but now it's coming back in. I think they're going to talk a lot about that and try to stage it in a way that gets you excited that they are being true to Jim Henson and they're keeping Muppets around in their parks. So I think we're going to get a big update on the retheme there. So a lot of these things are things we've heard already. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said Disney painted themselves in a bit of a corner here. They were so frightened and scared of Epic Universe. I know people don't want to hear that. All the Disney fans watching this, stay with me here. I'm not bashing Disney here, but what I'm saying is they are really so concerned about Epic Universe that they blasted D23 last year. They had every card that they could play, they were just pulling out of their pocket and throwing it on the table and saying, we got to announce this, we got to announce that, we got to announce that. They were throwing everything they could up against the wall, announcing everything. Tropical Americas, the Cars, the Villains, the Monsters Inc. They were just boom, 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 just shooting them out. What's left this year? What do they've got to announce something new. They're gonna have to try to bring what's the big new thing. I'm not talking about a little new thing. There's got to be something big, right? What's the big new thing they're going to announce this year? Maybe they won't announce anything. I don't know. Maybe it'll be lame. Maybe we'll be like, cool, we got some updates on things we already knew. But there's pretty much always something big and new that they have in their back pocket that they haven't revealed. And I don't know what that is. I've got some speculation. But there's not a lot left. They're doing so much stuff right now. Will it be a fifth gate? Absolutely not. That's not happening. There's not going to be any information on a fifth gate. At least that's my prediction. I'm not seeing it happen. I did a whole video on why I said Disney is not doing a fifth gate anytime soon. So the only big thing that I can think of that is left is Animation Courtyard in Hollywood Studios. What exactly are they going to be using this space for? This is a massive eyesore, massive waste of space that is happening in Hollywood Studios. Completely clueless as to why they needed to replace the Muppets Courtyard, the Muppet Vision 3D, Mama Melrose, Pizza Rizzo's, got rid of all of that to put Monsters Inc. when we had a completely dead, unused area of the park that's massive. So what are we doing there? There's been a lot of talk from Disney lately about returning to traditional animation. They've been talking a lot about two-dimensional animation, getting rid of 3D and CGI and going so crazy in these Pixar type films and kind of getting back to their roots. That's what Disney was originally. Think of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This traditional 2D animation style. So many phenomenal hits back in the days. Mulan and Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. It just a heavy hitter after heavy hitter. And they're talking about returning to that. It doesn't mean they're not going to do, 3D sort of CGI films, but trying to really move back towards the 2D. So it's quite possible that we could get something interesting around the Animation Courtyard. That's what it originally was built around. It was an animation courtyard, the animation studios and everything back there. You used to be able to do tours and stuff back there, really cool things. It's possible we could get some sort of announcement around that, around animation making a return, maybe doing something really interesting with that space around animation. We'll see. That's the big thing that I'm wondering is maybe that'll be some big announcement that they're planning for this year. So what they're going to do in that area. Now let's move over to Epcot. Not a lot of stuff happening over there in that space. I did hear rumor that we could possibly be getting a Journey into Imagination redo, refurb, retheme. They could be updating it. It's quite possible. Not a lot of information around this, so I'm just speculating really high here. If they're gonna do a Journey into Imagination retheme, this could be the year to announce it. I also think they really need to address the central hub back there behind the Spaceship Earth. Right there that replaced the Fountain of Nations, that little garden there with those lights around it. Those lights are diabolical. Like, it looks like, you know, a 7th grader's art project, the way that it was built. Like, they're having to like screw them back down into the ground because the plastic light things keep coming up and tripping people. I'm surprised they haven't been sued by somebody just tripping over one of those things. I mean, it's bad. Like, it is really bad. And I'm not sure what they were thinking. I don't understand. It's like the Wish version of you know, Disney park development. Whatever happened in that space, it's probably not likely we're going to hear anything about that because that's a downer, and they don't do downers at D23. But it's really bad. So I would love to see some sort of replacement or refiguring out what they're going to do there, because it's tough. And the last thing I think at Walt Disney World that we will hear about is the hotel updates. Like, what's going on with Lakeshore Lodge? Back in 2019, this is when it was first announced, and it was going to be called Reflections, a Disney Lakeshore Lodge, and it was supposed to have some sort of Princess and the Frog restaurant, themed restaurant in that Lakeshore Lodge. We really haven't heard much about it at all since COVID. It got put on hold. It basically stopped. And then since COVID, it has been building up. You can see it over there. A lot of people are complaining about it now, saying it's kind of ruining the sightlines at Fort Wilderness. But it is taking shape, and we haven't heard anything about it. They may change the name. Is the Princess and the Frog restaurant still in play? Are we still going to get that? Tiana's Palace or something? I don't know. So we're going to hopefully get an update on that. Now let's move really quickly over to Disneyland. I think we're going to get some announcements over there in that area of the world. Big one is the Walt Disney A Magical Life attraction they're building with the Walt Disney animatronic, which I know got some backlash, but it's basically going to be Walt Disney animatronic telling a little bit about his story and life and doing some storytelling, which I think actually sounds really cool. It's kind of like a Carousel of Progress almost feel to it. I think it's possible we could get an announcement that maybe that is going to also come to Walt Disney World. It could be something that they build and replicate over in Walt Disney World, maybe even in the Walt Disney, the man, you know, in his dream, the sort of museum that they have there. There's a show there. They could potentially do something there with this particular thing. I think it would be neat. I'd like to see it, to be honest, but you know, that could be an announcement. I think we'll definitely get a World of Pandora avatar over there in DCA update and announcement. We now know where it's going. It's replacing the Mike and Sully to the Rescue attraction over there, which I actually really enjoyed that attraction. I think it's a lot of fun, but they are replacing that and getting rid of that space and building out there where the sort of trams are. That'll be the new Avatar area. It's not a lot of space though, I'll be honest. So I don't think this World of Avatar Pandora is going to be huge. It may be as big as the one in Animal Kingdom, but probably not. We also know we're getting like an immersive boat ride there, which seems to be like, maybe that's the main attraction. Maybe it's the only attraction in that space. Again, it's not a lot of area for the Pandora land in DCA, but we know we're getting a water attraction. So I'm thinking it looks to me again like a Navi River ride, the Navi River ride over at Animal Kingdom, but maybe better? I don't know. I mean, I love the Navi River ride. I don't think there's anything wrong with it other than it's too short. Like, when the action starts getting good, the ride's over. Like, I feel like that should be the beginning of the ride, and then like it should keep going for like another 2 minutes. And then we'll definitely get an update on the Coco attraction that's coming over there at Disney's like Pixar Pier area. This will be a ride themed to Coco. It's another boat ride. Again, looks very much like Pirates of the Caribbean, just themed to Coco. Or even like the Grand Fiesta there in Epcot in the Mexico Pavilion. Looks kind of like that with Coco theme. Again, they could have easily done that to the Mexico Pavilion, rethemed to Coco. Kind of glad they didn't. I love Coco, but it's kind of cool and chill the way it is. There's a bunch of other random things I think we're going to get updates on, like the Disney Cruise Line and the Avengers Campus over there in DCA. But You know, I'm not like, those don't like super excite me. So that's pretty much everything that I think is going to be the big announcements this year at Disney's D23. Let me know what you think. Anything I missed, anything you're hoping to hear about, let me know in the comments. Be sure to like, subscribe, share this. So I see you next time. The Noble Way is the easy way. Bye-bye, everybody.